to walk you through what our what our data collection looks like, and how we're analyzing that data. To start, we'll go to the site. So the site is a web application. You can either sign in with email or sign in with Google Suite. I already have an account, so it shows up. And if you did not have an account, you would have to enter a password and create an account. Now, as it's signing in, it works to authenticate, and then we get into the site. Now, everyone who enters the site has to take our survey. And the survey asks a variety of questions. It is asking for demographic information. As a note, if you put an age under 21, it won't allow you to submit. So we have to go above 21. And besides the demographic information, we also want to figure out what people want when they're buying beer. So what's important to them in terms of taste, or in terms of percentage of alcohol, how bitter they like their beers, their price sensitivity, and how adventurous they are. So the adventurous metric will determine how random our recommendation will be. After we collect that information, we want to get a feeling for how people rank certain types of beers that are well known. So the trouble with craft beers is that there are so many you don't know which ones you like, so it's often hard to get a standardization with a few beers. So instead, we are going with these large name beers to figure out kind of the general taste preferences of our users. This will help when we're initially giving a recommendation, as we have very little information on the user. Once we finish with the survey, you can submit it, and we will have that information on the user. This is where our recommendation will be, but we're not going to get into that yet. Now we're going to walk through the data science behind the recommendation. So we have two different recommenders. The first one tries to understand the different traits of the beers and recommend based off of item similarity. So that use the k-means to generate clusters. So these are unlabeled clusterings that we don't know how they're arranged, but they are arranged logically based off of information within this beer database that we have. So we have to go through and clean the data set that we have, remove any non-essential columns, clear out rows that have incomplete information. Then we kind of want to get a feel for how this recommender, what it will generate. So this is taking 10 beers, it just shows one, and then generating a recommendation based off of those 10 beers, and that is the Russian River Brewing Company. So those 11 beers all are similar in some way. Now this is the second recommender. This one is a user similarity. So we are using a correlation matrix to figure out how people's ratings of different beers vary across people. So what we found when we were analyzing this data is that a lot of beers have very few ratings. So there's a couple of beers that have a bunch of ratings. Now, we found that if you have one or two ratings on a beer, the rating will be relatively high. So we wanted to account for that issue and make it so that a beer has to have over 60 ratings in order to be considered in our recommendation. Otherwise, we have this issue of a correlation of 1, which clearly those beers are not all the same. So we have made it so that a beer must have over 50 ratings in order to be recommended. With that, we get a Kirkland Signature Pale Ale as the recommendation. Now you can also look at the similar beers at this same brewery and a whole variety of information that could be useful to the customer in trying to find beers that they might like. Now we are using this recommendation system in addition to the item similarity. So we're using item similarity and user similarity to give the best recommendation. The item similarity helps with the cold start problem of not having enough information, and then the user similarity with the correlation matrix is usually considered a better recommendation tool. So that is how we are generating the recommendation, and then one beer is going to be listed on our web page. And users will be able to determine if they like that beer or not and then get another recommendation.